Are you headed to an Aetherdrift pre-release this weekend? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope you can go out and support your local game store and enjoy Magic the Gathering's newest standard set, Aetherdrift. Lots of fun. Looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. We had the opportunity to see some MTG Arena content, early access for content creators go up. I've been binging a little bit of that content and have taken a stroll through the full card image gallery and everything that we can expect here for Aetherdrift. In this video, I want to chat about not the rares or mythics. There are some absolute bombs in this set, but more importantly, some standout commons and uncommons that I think are really going to help to drive what you might build in your pre-release kit, as well as some things that you may want to consider valuing a little bit higher as you roll into drafts. Now, this is some preliminary information, but having the set fully spoiled, and again, being able to participate and see some of the content, and to see a little bit more how the format flowed from some very initial impressions, I think is pretty good. We're going to go ahead, we're going to jump in, and I have a couple of honorable mentions up front, things that I think are just standouts, and I would be remiss to not bring up. After that, we're going to jump into one pick per color, and then I want to showcase and talk a little bit about some of the multicolored uncommons that I think are going to have some very solid value and be great build-arounds. So, without further ado, let's get to it. All right, honorable mention number one. I think I would absolutely get ripped in the comments if I did not bring up Lightning Strike. If you're not familiar, Lightning Strike is a 2-cost, 1 generic, 1 red instant that deals 3 damage to any target. At common, this is going to absolutely be fantastic. This is going to be one of Red's best removal options in the format, and at common, hopefully you get an opportunity to see a few. Now, your pre-release kit, of course, is going to have the variations between what you open in your sealed packs versus this in terms of drafts. I'm going to talk about it really kind of from both perspectives, but if you see 1 or 2 of these in your pre-release kit, red should be something that you should absolutely consider. And even on the splash, this is going to be a great removal option for you. So definitely gets its first, as well it should, honorable mention, because this card is going to be absolutely awesome. Next up, also in red as an honorable mention, I want to talk about Road Rage here. This format, very focused, of course, on mounts and vehicles. Road Rage is an instant for 1 red mana that allows you to deal X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is 2+ the number of mounts and vehicles you control. The interesting thing is this actually gets pretty good later into the game if you have a couple of vehicles or mounts, which is extremely likely with the format and its focus. And then even early on, as a 1 red instant spell to be able to deal 2 damage to either a creature or planeswalker feels very, very solid. Red, of course, has always been good in the removal space, but this is just another standout for me and an honorable mention that you should consider. And if you have this paired up with a Lightning Strike or 2, probably got your removal package pretty well situated if you could support, again, a couple of mounts and vehicles. Another honorable mention here in green, and I just really enjoy this card, is Plow Through. There seem to be a lot of really good 1 mana cost spells in this format, and this, I think, is amongst the best. Plow Through is a 1 green sorcery. It allows you to choose 1 target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls, or you can destroy target vehicle. Obviously, the value here is that you get a fight spell, or specifically have the ability to target and destroy a vehicle, which again, there are going to be many in, and I think any opportunity where you can take out a vehicle is going to be really impactful. Green, usually pretty good also at dealing with artifacts, and this kind of gets that same sense. I also think the fight ability is going to be interesting if you have some creatures with Death Touch or other solid creatures out there. You're going to be able to make pretty good use of this spell, and I like it for its single green casting cost. One final honorable mention here is going to be Defend the Rider. This is a 1 green instant. Choose 1. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, or create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token. with this token saddles mounts and cruise vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Now, I think these colorless pilots are actually going to be quite impactful. There is a lot of low-cost crew and saddle costs out there in the format. However, a 1/1 that can crew or saddle for 3 is exceptional, I think. And this is going to really help to turn on, again, a lot of the mounts and a lot of vehicles that we're going to see. There are some absolutely awesome vehicles in green, and I think that option is really nice as an instant. It also can, in a pinch, just create you a 1/1 blocker if needed. The other piece of it is that you get the protection portion of this, but I like that it's target permanent instead of target creature. We have seen target creature in many instances, but being able to give both hexproof and indestructible is a really, really nice setup. If you end up playing one of your bombs and you have 1 green mana open, I think you're going to be able to surprise a lot of folks with the ability to keep this protected in green with this spell if you see it. All right, jumping into my actual picks here per color. The first one I'm going to throw up here is Glory Heath Lynx. It's a 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 white creature cat mount with lifelink. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, you search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. It saddles for 2, and it is a 2/3 body. I think what's most interesting about this is just this as a creature with lifelink. A 2/3 for 2 with lifelink is just fantastic. I think the value is absolutely there. In addition, you get the opportunity to kind of use this as a ramp spell if you can saddle it early and get this thing going. I just think this is going to be a fantastic option for white. Obviously, you have the life gain triggers as well, so you can feel good with your synergies there. And I like the body. I think it's going to be very, very solid creature to drop turn 2, turn 3, and be able to take advantage of there in white. The next one I want to bring up is Scrounging Skyray, a 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue creature fish pirate with flying that whenever you discard 1 or more cards, put that many 1/1 counters on this creature. This has cycling for 2, which is pay 2, discard this card, draw a card, and it is a 1/2 body. Again, very much like my first pick there for white, I think this is going to be another great 2-drop that if you can have the ability to build around a little bit. There are tons of cycling cards in the format. Cycling is a great mechanic. I'm happy to see this back. I think you really can find answers and options. You're going to have a good opportunity to, I think, put some 1/1 counters on this creature. Obviously, later into the game, not as impactful, but this on turn 2 or turn 3, followed up with a few cycling, especially some of the cycling options that also give you the ability to use or decrease its ability or give some other value to the cycling besides discarding and drawing a card is just going to help you to pump this up. And then a 1/2 flyer is also just not bad in terms of rate for 2. So I think another good creature that, again, if you can build around and you have at least a few cycling options, you're going to find that this creature can get pretty big pretty quickly. All right, as we move over to our pick for black here, I have chosen Hour of Victory. It's an enchantment for 3, 2 generic, and 1 swamp. It has Start Your Engines. When this enchantment enters, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. At max speed, you can pay 2, 1 generic, and 1 swamp. Sacrifice this enchantment, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You can activate only as a sorcery. Now, as I have witnessed and watched over the opportunity with the MTG Arena Early Access, max speed actually feels like, with the right deck and a solid build, you're going to be able to get there relatively quickly. And I think this enchantment here, especially if you can play this where something else has started your engine, maybe you have one of the lands or another creature or whatever else can get your engine started before turn 3. This on turn 3 making a 2/2 black zombie, it's pretty solid. You're able to ramp up into max speed, pay 2 more, and search your library for any card. Seems really, really strong, especially in a limited format. Your sealeds or even your drafts as it's moving around. I think this is going to be great. This also, as an enchantment, I think gives you some opportunities as a sack outlet. So I think there's some opportunities to make use of that in this format. And this just feels really good, especially if you can, follow this up. Maybe you're in black with another splash of a color and you have a really strong, rare or mythic. You're going to be able to pay 2 once you hit max speed to find that card. Or in a pinch, you can, do this as a sorcery, find maybe a removal spell or something to push through those final points of damage. I just think the value for this card overall is there, as long as you have the opportunity to hit max speed. And I think that will not be an issue with black, with a lot of the, drain effects that are in the format. So with the right build around, I think this can be quite solid. All right, my pick for red, interestingly enough, is Sky Crash. It is an instant for 1 red and 1 generic that destroys target artifact, and you can cycle for 1 red. Red is just going to be fantastic, as always, with the removal, especially with artifact removal, and this is no exception. What stands out for me here is at instant speed. I think this is great. It is target artifact, and there are going to be just so many fantastic options for this card, I think, no matter what color pairing you're playing against on the other side of the table. The other flip side of this that I do really enjoy is the fact that this cycles for 1 red. So again, in a pinch, maybe they're not playing as many vehicles or artifacts that you need to take care of. You can cycle this, you can get your draw and discard going, and there are a lot of opportunities in red to make use of that, as well as other colors, blue being a very, very strong pairing, as we saw previously with our pick in blue. This is just going to be a fantastic option. And I think red to me feels like a very, very strong color in this format, just with all the things that it has going on. And I think this is a spell that will easily slot into many decks, or as a splash as well if you need some good removal. All right, and then lastly here for green, my pick is Elvish Refueler. This is 2 generic and 1 green creature, elf druid, that during your turn, as long as you haven't activated an exhaust ability this turn, you can activate exhaust abilities as though they haven't been activated. It has exhaust for 1 generic and 1 green. Put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and it is a 2/3 body. Very similar to a couple of other creature picks here at Uncommon. This feels really, really fantastic. We have seen in recent formats, Duskmourn probably one that stands out for me. Your ability to do things with additional mana later on is always good. Well, not always good, but at least in the right format, it can be very good. And this, the exhaust ability especially, feels like it can fit into that category. Elfish Refueler here gives you the ability to essentially extend those exhaust abilities. If you're not familiar, exhaust, you can activate each exhaust ability only once. This gives you the ability to move through that, and that for that reason, with the body on here, even if you're able to just use it on Elvish Refueler, for 2 mana, Elvish Refueler is going to be able to just grow bigger, and that is certainly something that green is interested in doing, but also can just be a great sink for that mana. This paired up with other exhaust abilities, especially for some of the really fantastic rares and mythics that we have in the set, I think there's a ton of upside value for this. Plus, 2/3 body for 3, it's not great, but it's certainly not bad either. And I think it provides a good defender for you if you need that as well. All right, I want to jump into a cycle now of the multicolor cards. I picked out a few of each, or decent representation as well, because I do think there are some very, very good signpost uncommons for some of the archetypes that you want to build. The first one here, probably the least impactful actually, but I have really enjoyed this type of effect, is Haunted Hellride. It is an artifact vehicle for 3, 1 generic, 1 blue, and 1 black. Whenever you attack target creature you control, gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn, and you untap it. This is a 3/3 vehicle that crews for 1. Just on rate, this feels very solid. If you're able to play this vehicle and then crew it, you have a 4/3 death touching, essentially vigilance creature, because you're able to untap it. I think this just dropping on turn 3 when you go into attack, even with some low 1 drops or 2 drops in the previous turn, you're essentially turning those into death touch attacking creatures that also in essence, have vigilance, and that just feels very, very good. Being able to crew this up for 1 also feels like a really, really good rate. I think it's one of the better vehicles at this uncommon slot, and I am a fan, as we have seen from, again, previous formats, where you don't even have to attack with this creature. This is just going to be an artifact on the battlefield that gives you that advantage that you then can turn into a creature, which is certainly something that you're wanting to do in this format. So I'm a fan of this one. The next one I want to bring up here is Veteran Beast Rider, another 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 green, 1 white creature human knight. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control. You can also pay 2 generic, 1 green, and 1 white for creatures you control to get +1/+1 until end of turn, and is on a 3/4 body. Great body for a 3 mana creature, 3/4. We're seeing a lot, actually, a lot of my picks here have been kind of slightly higher toughness than power, but I think that's going to be really good in this format. I like this because essentially it's an Anthem effect to untap your creatures, and you have the ability to then sink mana into this to pump your creatures up and get those better attacks in the long run. This has a lot of upside for me, especially in that color pairing. I think is going to be what you want to do, and this just feels like a really, really good pick if you see this, especially in a sealed pool. Or I don't know how I would feel about this necessarily in draft. I've got to kind of feel out some of these color pairings and see what's going to kind of rise to the top. However, I will say that I think in a sealed pool with some support here in green and white for the creatures that you have, this feels like a very, very good thing to potentially build around, especially if you can take advantage of being able to untap each creature you control at your end step. All right, in the same color pairing, and I think this is probably one of the best multicolored uncommons potentially out there, is Legoran, Soul of Alakria. I maybe said that wrong. It's a legendary creature, beast mount, flying. Whenever it attacks while saddled, you put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target mounts and or vehicles. It saddles for 1 and is a 1/1. For 2 mana, a 1/1 flyer that then can saddle and essentially pump itself and others just feels really, really good. If you're able to get a couple of saddled attacks off with this, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how quickly the power and toughness of your creatures can build, especially if you can build around mounts. I think there's a really good conversation. You're going to have vehicles or options for good vehicles, but if you can get some of the good, like common or uncommon mounts in white or green that are in the format as well, paired up with this at a nice curve, I can just imagine attacking in on turn 3 with this thing in the air with 2 mounts on the battlefield, or even just 1 other mount on the battlefield, is going to be really, really good. This is going to be a creature that you absolutely should be looking at. If you don't have any flying protection on the battlefield at the moment, you're going to need to really kind of prioritize, I think, taking this creature down. The nice part is, on the reverse side, it is a small body, but a 1/1 flyer for 2 mana doesn't feel bad at all. I really like this creature. I think it has the potential of being one of the top picks, depending on, again, how good green and white is going to be in the format. Okay, and then I have 2 more here to wrap this up. Boosted Sloop is a 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red artifact vehicle with menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card, and cruise for 1. I just think red and blue are going to want to do the looting thing. They're going to want to draw a lot of cards. They're going to want to discard a lot of cards. There's a ton of cards, again, like our pick in blue, that take advantage of being able to discard a card. So that loot effect is going to be absolutely awesome. I also like the fact that this has menace on a 3/3 body for 3. Feels pretty solid. Crews very easily for 1. This isn't the craziest of standout, but this feels like a really easy inclusion if you're already doing the red and the blue thing for a great vehicle that can also provide you just a good amount of value for what this color combination wants to do. All right, and for our last pick here, Broadside Barrage is a 3-mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red instant that allows you to deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. You then draw a card and discard a card. Everything that I just said about that previous vehicle and this color combination absolutely applies to this. I think the ability to, deal the 5 damage here to a creature or planeswalker feels very, very good for 3 mana. There's a lot of good high toughness creatures that are going to, be able to, see the broadside of this barrage. And I think being able to loot on top of it just feels so good for what this color pairing wants to do. If you have a few synergies out to take advantage of this, I think you're going to absolutely enjoy and like seeing this card. And red has such a good suite of removal already. I think this just adds to it if you're in this color pairing and combination. All right, and those are my picks. I hope some cards at least for you to consider. Enjoy pre-release. Again, I will be headed to one this evening as you're watching this video. I'm very excited for this format. I've really enjoyed what I have been able to see, again, from the early access there on MTG Arena. Very much looking forward to jumping into drafts. I'll be posting over in our Discord our pre-release kit, so if you want to join, links in the description for that. If you enjoyed the video or you found it helpful to flash some socials, please consider subscribing. It's kind of a first for the channel, so if it was helpful for you, please let me know down in the comments below. I really do enjoy a ton of limited, sealed, and draft. As soon as Aetherdrift drops there on MTG Arena, we'll absolutely be jumping into it. But these are also videos that I've been interested in making. And so again, if you took some value out of it, spent a few minutes with me, really do appreciate that support. Do help us get to our first channel milestone, which is 1,000 subscribers. We'd appreciate all the support there. Likes and comments are great. We have a ton of MTG Arena action in the limited space, so if you want to watch that, we have a whole playlist down below, and post videos almost daily as well. And then every Wednesday we do pack openings. We're still working through our Innistrad Remastered product. We got Aetherdrift on the way as well, so we'll be cracking the Finish Line bundle, a play booster, and probably a couple of collector boosters as well. Here in the coming weeks, we post those every Wednesday, so if you're interested, be sure to stick around, and we'd appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and we'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Peace.